Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't even know that you were there. I was just shaving. I'm just kidding. Anyways, welcome to the Did You Know podcast. I am your. Oops, hold on. Sorry. Not as messy now. I am Dustin. I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic. And that is going to be about Bitcoin's need for punk rock. I'll kind of explain where that comes from, as well as some of the kind of the deeper finer topics of what I see as a problem within Bitcoin. And by Bitcoin, I'm speaking of Bitcoin BTC. But first, if we could give a quick shout out to my sponsors, eToro. eToro is a really cool service that has just began to sponsor the podcast, and they are an innovative smart trading platform that offers many different crypto assets, and they've been around for about 12 years. They conduct about $1 trillion in trading annually. They offer, various tools, advanced charting features to help you be the best trader. U.S. customers can now trade the most popular crypto assets, transparent low fees. And if you're new to trading, while you are learning, you could practice strategies with their virtual trading tool, which means that you use fake money, but you use them on real books, so you can actually just practice these strategies, see if they actually work. You can also connect with a network of 11 million other traders, where you can discuss trading, charting strategies, anything else trading or Bitcoin related. If you go to didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro, that's ETORO, you'll not only help me out when you sign up by letting them know that you came from me, but you also get $50. So $50, everybody wins, everybody's happy. So why don't we talk about what the topic of today is, which is why Bitcoin needs more punk rock. And where that comes from is, I can't remember what interview. I don't believe it was the Hash War recap where I had Krista Rose on my podcast. But I believe it was, I can't remember. Anyways, and he was getting at, is kind of paraphrasing, is that he was saying that Bitcoin is punk rock. Like, if you are, if you have a family and kids, he was saying, like, what are you doing in Bitcoin? And obviously I am biased and I'm not objective when I disagree with that, because that would, obviously preclude me from being in the space. But I think if I may try to get at what I believe that he's talking about, is that Bitcoin is not, this is not a startup. This is not a VC. This is not, you starting this new company and trying to, offer an app that's kind of cool or whatever. This is serious. This is important, and it's bigger than I think a lot of people realize. And that there needs to be. I talked with Jeffrey Tucker about this in my interview. Is that there was a lot of reputational risk. When he first started to talk about Bitcoin, I'm sorry, I need to fix my chair. That's kind of squeaky. When he first started talking about Bitcoin, this was, as much still people kind of joke around as being internet nerd money, whatever. Back then, it was even more so. And it was very dangerous, and opening yourself up to ridicule, to talk about Bitcoin. Not as much for the rest of us, like average Joes talking with his friends, most part, for mostly just our friends may just kind of, look at us weird and whatever, but for someone like him, it was, as a professional economist talking amongst other economists, this was something that was very risky for him, and brought him, in the parlance of our times, it brought him a lot of shade from his fellow economists, even people that were, somewhat of the similar mindset in the liberty movement. And I think that what Chris is trying to get at is that, or at least what I took away from, is that Bitcoin is not about trying to be trying to replace the institutions, the academia, so much with now just Bitcoin people, right? Where it used to be, well, this is the currency trading desk, or this was the department that studied, world currencies and inflation. Now they're going to study Bitcoin, right? Or that, now we are going to be the ones that are going to get invited with Bezos and Zuckerberg and Jack down to Sun Valley in Idaho. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about that, but it's I've actually been down to Sun Valley. It's a pretty awesome place, actually. But they do this big retreat for kind of the technocrat elite of the world, and it's quite interesting. And I think that a lot of Bitcoiners, I think within Bitcoin, when I just for ease of use, for the rest of this talk, whenever I'm talking about Bitcoin, I'm referring to BTC. If it's anything else, I'll refer to it separately. But within Bitcoin, I think that because of the store of value thesis, the consensus within institutions is that the store of value thesis is amongst the majority of people within Wall Street, within academia, and all that kind of stuff. When they talk about Bitcoin in any kind of light, or what Bitcoin is or its successes thus far, they all pretty much read, and that's just because a lot of them are just not educated on a lot of the intricacies, agree that the store of value thesis is what Bitcoin is, and are betting on it. In the case of Wall Street and traders and institutional investment are betting on that, right? And just for clarification, that is the thesis that I think is the best way forward. Partly because seems to be the majority consensus. And also, I just think that it's the easiest way to get people to jump into Bitcoin, where it's a lot harder to do when you're talking about from a freedom aspect or something like that. Whereas, or kind of talking about these larger philosophical or macro points, I think that's much more difficult to do when trying to get Bitcoin adopted through those ways. I think that I meant to write this down. There was somebody that I was listening to. It was on a podcast. I'll put it in the show notes once I find it. I'm not going to make you guys sit here while I do 5 minutes of Googling and looking through my phone. But I'll put it in the show notes at didyouknowcrypto.com. And you just look for Bitcoin is punk rock, I guess is what I'll name this episode. I don't know when I'm actually going to release this as a podcast yet. I'm just going to do this live, and I'm going to release it later. But I'll put that in the show notes, and I'll put that in the YouTube. If you're on YouTube, I'll put that later in there. But he was talking about that greed is the best way right now. People respond to greed. I don't want to associate Bitcoin at all with like MLM or anything like that. But there is a reason why Powerball, why MLMs, why all these like pre-rolls that you may have even seen when you watch this YouTube video of going, would you like to earn 20 grand just sitting on your butt working 30 minutes a day? Which there are ways to do that. Hey, Lucas, nice to see you. And I think that there's a reason that people respond to that. And it's not that there aren't ways to do some of those things. There's kernels of truth and a lot of that. But there's a reason that MLMs and all these things are very popular. There's a reason why they attract so many people, why you have your aunts and uncle, or not so much your aunts and uncles, but your friends from high school and college that are constantly hitting you up in emails and Facebook Messenger and whatever DMs that you have. And, and asking you to buy in because greed is a powerful force. And I think that Bitcoin thus far, at least it's the early waves. I've talked about this. There's the early waves. There was the very early wave, which was kind of the very early kind of cypherpunk developers who realized what Bitcoin was and how important it was. And these individuals, did it because they love the code. They loved the code. They loved the concept of what Bitcoin was going to do. And I think that, for whatever reasons, anyways, they adopted it. Then we went on to the political side. There were people, that were early on OG Bitcoiners who kind of came in that second wave, which were kind of more influenced by the politics. A lot of libertarians. Lucas, he's on the YouTube chat here. I don't really speak Spanish. I'm sorry. Enough where I can maybe get by, but anyways, so the political folks, were motivated by a lot of times with libertarianism, although there were people like BTC Socialist who were motivated by things that were obviously pretty much anathema to libertarianism, but they were motivated by political aspirations, what it could mean politically and changing society. And then the next wave, and the really big wave, right? And a lot of that groundwork was laid by, the first wave creating Bitcoin, right? Creating Bitcoin and getting, wallets out there and things like that. The second wave was kind of the evangelizer. And the third wave, these were the people that came in 2013, were buying Bitcoin, were buying it as a speculative investment. And especially in 2017 and beyond, right? They're looking at, oh, well, it's done this, right? It's gone up, and then it kind of goes down. But if you look at historically, even with the dips, it's following an upward trajectory, right? So it is the greed that is driving them, and I think that instead of trying to, fight against that it's a good idea, and this is made fun of within people within BSV, BCH, to a lesser extent some of the other tangential coins out there, of the number go up, right? But I don't think that really any of the other coins, also, as much as they make fun of Bitcoin BTC as number go up, all they really care about is the number going up. They also expect to, because if you think like, well, fill in the blank is going to be the next world's money, then your number has to go up. If even 20% of the population adopts it, if you have a capped if you have capped supply, the number has to go up, even if you're just using it for daily transactions. So the making fun of number go up, I kind of get what's behind it, but it's also, to me, your number's going to go up too, and you're going to be banking on that. If you're not hodling on top of transactions, then I think you actually believe in your project, then I think that you're not. I don't know. I think that there's some doubt that you have. Anyways, I think that greed is a valid avenue to go, and I think it's a very good one too, to get people exposed to it. Because when people are exposed to it, they start to learn a little bit more about it. There's a lot more people that are in this space, quote unquote, than there were before. And a lot of these people came in because of greed. A lot of them fell out because they lost money. But there's a larger chunk every time, right, that remained, started to actually learn about it, was like, oh, this is really cool. Got their own wallets, put cold storage. What they learned about it, they learned about the economics of it. They learned about what it meant. They learned about why inflationary currencies are a bad thing, and they stayed. So I think that's actually a valid avenue to go in. My issue is that I think that too many people in Bitcoin are hoping, well, I want to be the next, Mark Zuckerberg, or the next Bezos, or I want to be the one getting invited, like I said, getting invited to these places. I want to be the one who's, doing the speaking circuit at colleges and esteemed universities. I want to be the one in the nice suit that everybody looks at and goes, oh, I know that guy. He's the Bitcoin guy, right? Or he's the guy that was, whatever, right? He was in Bitcoin really early. How smart is that guy? I think too many people are looking for validation from the very institutions that we feign, or at least some people do, feign to disregard and have an issue with. I don't think that Bitcoin itself has any, like, Craig Wright is right. Hold with me here, is right in a way that Bitcoin is not about, ending the banks. I don't think so either. I think the banks, of course, are going to be around. Investment banks are going to be around. Wall Street's going to be around. It's not like it's just like Bitcoin's going to replace all these other things, because Bitcoin is not Facebook. Bitcoin is not Uber. Bitcoin is not publicly traded companies. It's not going to take over all of that and just replace it, right? So all this stuff is still going to be around, right? But we have a lot of disdain for it because of what underpins a lot of this is the central banks and their inflationary policies that they are all complicit in. But I think that too many of us are hoping. So I'm not saying that it's bad to want to work for any of these, but I think too many people are going like, I want the prestige of these old institutions. I want the prestige and the love and the affection and the validation from the old world, right? Like, we're on our way to America, and you're looking for honorary titles from the king and queen, right? And that's not what Bitcoin is about. Bitcoin is the boats that is getting us to the new world. Bitcoin is the boats that's getting us to getting away from those old, decrepit, archaic societies, right? And we're going to build something brand new. I think that that is what Bitcoin is about. And I have some major problems because I think that that this seeking of validation plays into the complacency. I think there's a big complacency within. I don't like to use the word. We use the word thought leader, influencer, and people within the space go, "Oh, I don't like that. I'm not an influencer. I'm not a thought leader. I just say what I want." Okay, you got a high follower Twitter account within Bitcoin. You got not everybody agrees 100% on everything, but there's like an 80 to 90% consensus on everything within the thought leaders of Bitcoin. And I think that too many people have gotten comfortable because they at least reached a level of prestige within the community, and good on them. I'm not criticizing you for being successful and people liking to listen to you. I have no, obviously that's not what it is. But I do have real concerns in that success breeds complacency. It always does, right? Sears, top dog for a long time. Where are they now? Closed out. They did not adapt, react. They were comfortable. They got complacent. They had the idea, Blockbuster. They were comfortable. They got complacent, right? They didn't think anything could come in and knock them out. IBM, right? They're still around, right? But they're not what they were in their heyday. They scrapped and they scratched, they clawed with their fingers to get up to the top. They innovated. And then what happened? They got complacent. They're playing it. I don't want to say playing it safe because I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily playing it safe. But I think that people are too complacent in the idea of, okay, well, we won the fork wars and whatever like that. We're still the top dog market cap wise. It seems like most institutions are coming to us. As far as in terms of a lot of the traditional measurements, I think that obviously, like I said, Bitcoin, the consensus is that the store value thesis thus far seems to be the winning one. It's one, like I said, that I agree with. But I think that with that success breeds complacency, and this idea of like, well, everything that's not Bitcoin, I'm just gonna throw out as being a shit coin. I'm just gonna say like I think that you're underestimating the fact that people can come up and knock you down from where you are. The farther ahead in time that we've gotten, the more it seems that the less time that you have to remain on top without constantly innovating, right? You could go for a lot of years back in the day being the top dog in whatever field, right? And then now it seems like if you are not reactive, if you are not innovating, if you are not, and by innovating, I'm not saying Bitcoin needs to like adopt everything that they see within the space. Obviously not. I do actually appreciate a conservative approach to it, but that's also I talked about in my Bitcoin Heretics episode 50. Just my kind of background stuff that could bias me in terms of liking a conservative approach. But anyways, I think that if you are not constantly keeping an eye to innovation and not letting yourself rest for 1 minute, and getting outside of the damn bubble, this is the big problem I have because so much of Bitcoin happens on Twitter, as far as for exposure to other places. And there's too many people that just mute and block everybody that they just don't agree with. I understand blocking people and or muting them. I don't like blocking unless they actually make like verbal like abusive threats. I don't block people. And I understand muting if people are not. I just don't like the idea of not letting people see what you say. I find that just kind of a little bit too weird. But this idea of I'm not, other than for the fact that I'm just going to make quick hot takes of, oh well, this guy's an idiot. I think it's really dangerous. I think it's really, really dangerous to sit there and just think that where we are right now is going to be what's always going to be. Just because, well, I believe that this thesis is the best thesis. And obviously, like this idea of like, well, obviously it's going to win. Right. And I think the memes in Bitcoin are absolute shit. I think that Bitcoin, the meme did very well for a very long time. And we've once again gotten complacent in that. We're not searching for we're not searching for appealing memes to outside groups. We are constantly using memes that appeal to our in-group preferences all the time. I think the most telling one and the one that I despise the most is the Citadel. I freaking hate that thing. Apologies. I really hate it because it absolutely, I know some people just do it tongue in cheek, but it is absolutely elitist garbage, right? This, well, we're going to have our own Citadel and only Bitcoiners are going to be in there. We're going to be in mountaintops and everybody else is going to be wishing that they bought. Like, you're not going to make a movement on that. We're not going to have any sort of a metamorphosis of society to where we want to by taking this, well, we were really early. And I don't think enough people like acknowledge the fact that you make a lot of decisions when you're younger and most of them don't pan out. There's a lot of bad decisions you make, and a lot of us got into Bitcoin. I made the bad decision of selling everything back in the day, which is my biggest financial missed opportunity of all time. So I will admit that, and maybe I'm a little bit salty of that too. I will admit that too. But I think that too many people won't admit. They want to be seen as sort of sages and oracles of like, well, I saw Bitcoin for what it was, and I always knew. And it's like, yeah, maybe. Maybe you did. But I think a lot of people at the same time were probably buying into MLM and all this other crap. And they lost out on their buddy. My friend tried to get me in. I don't even remember what it was, and I never encountered an MLM. And I heard about, oh well, I can make this money. This sounds a good idea. So I paid $98 to be an independent business associate, and I found out I was just selling rip-off Red Bulls for like $4 more. And I learned from that. But let's just say if that would have taken off, then I would have considered myself some sort of sage. So I think that getting back to the Citadel, I think that that's an absolutely terrible elitist meme. And anybody who's coming into Bitcoin and wondering what this is about, and what is Bitcoin and all that, and then they see, if we don't use influencer, the high follower accounts that people follow, retweet, and engage with, talking about this sort of thing, and I think that yeah, not selling Red Bull. I think that they're going to be totally taken aback by this idea of some sort of I don't know. It just comes off as very elitist. It's not. I don't like to use the word inclusive, but it is. It's not inclusive to newcomers. People are not gonna be drawn to this at all. It's a terrible meme. I think it should be abandoned immediately, unless maybe keep it for close Slack. Maybe the best way. It's not a good public meme, and I think that unless innovation in hacking culture, I think that more than actual development is probably the best way forward. Is really kind of focusing on hacking the wider culture is where you're actually going to see adoption more so than the actual development. I mean, those go hand in hand, right? Because if something doesn't work or whatever, then it's going to be hard to retain. But I think that we need to focus more on hacking culture, on marketing, as much of a dirty word that is, if you actually want to get adoption, because there's a lot of stuff that's great. There's so many tools out there. Like you look at years back, like PGP. It's a great tool, but for somebody new, it took me forever. I don't know how many YouTube videos and stuff that I had and blogs I had to read to try to figure out how to sign my emails and actually encrypt something. I still use my Hotmail address, dating myself. But I'd used Hotmail for all those years. I had no idea what to do. So it took forever to do. It was a great tool. it was bad. One, it was bad marketing. There's no marketing unless you're inside those circles, and it just was not user friendly. So I think that, kind of close this up. I don't want to make this too long, but I think that Bitcoin needs to focus on hacking culture, on getting away from elitist concepts and memes that preference kind of are in group preferences, and focus on actual reaching out and adoption, and not, there's too many people that when you see like newbies coming out and asking a question and going, but my buddy said, X was actually, better than Bitcoin. And then they're just said, well, your buddy's a retard, and then they get blocked. That's not how you win. You win hearts and minds. I mean, where do you see the great religions? You can talk about forced conversions and everything like that, but the majority of the great religions spread through, especially Christianity, through evangelization. There was the forced conversions, but there was, I mean, the mass amount of people just going out and spreading the gospels, to the corners of the world. They didn't do that, and they did not. You're not going to get that same sort of hacking of the culture and evangelization if you are just going to be calling everybody a heretic. Actually, there wouldn't be heretics. They'd be because heretics are, but anyways, you get what I'm saying. Not apostates. It'd be anyways, doesn't matter. If you're just going to, tell them that they're going to be going to hell, and if you don't adopt right now, then it's just too late, and then you leave, right? That's not how you are going to convert entire populations. And, like I've talked about a lot on the podcast, I'd been on for quite a few episodes talking about Bitcoin as a religion. And once you view it as such, it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more easier to relate to the public, and it's a lot more easier to understand infidels. Thank you, Ben. It's a lot more easier to uh, understand how we are going to get more adoption, because it is not by having going the way that we are. We're just way too complacent, way too just assuming that this is going to work, right? It's very much the same way that Christianity has fallen on its laurels over the last 50 to 100 years. It's like, oh, well, we do believe that this is the one true religion, so obviously things are just going to work out. Well, you also have to put in the work too. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the episode. Head over to didyouknowcrypto.com for all the links to all the social media. Please reach out, Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever you guys want to reach out. Feel free anytime. I really do appreciate you guys listening, and have a good night.